And we're still providing our special coverage today on Donald Trump's inauguration as the 47th President of the United States. On the eve of his return to the White House, Donald Trump has vowed to sign a series of executive orders on his first day as president, promising supporters that he would act with historic speed and strength in the immediate hours following his inauguration. Ahead of his return to Pennsylvania Avenue, Donald Trump addressed a lively crowd of thousands at a victory rally in the Washington, D.C. arena, offering a glimpse into his plans for the next 4 years. The Republican vowed to act unilaterally on a wide range of issues, pledging to use his presidential powers to launch mass deportation operations, roll back environmental regulations, and eliminate diversity programs. He's also expected to sign over 200 executive actions on his first day in office. These will include legally binding executive orders, as well as other presidential directives, such as proclamations, which are generally non-binding. At a celebration on the eve of his second inauguration, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has described the recent Gaza ceasefire as epic and a step for lasting peace in the Middle East. Meanwhile, Trump's envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, is reportedly considering a visit to Gaza as part of his efforts to keep a ceasefire deal on track. While addressing the crowd, Trump described his Mideast envoy, Steve Witkoff, as a great negotiator, as he helped negotiate a ceasefire deal along with Biden's administration. As Trump prepares for a second term in the Middle East, is bracing for Trump's return with escalating crises. Questions are rising about his administration's priorities regarding the Middle East. Let's take a look at Trump's expected policies regarding the Middle East with Ronald Assos.
The Middle East is now bracing for Trump's return as regional leaders prepare for his second term. Questions are growing about the priorities of his new administration in addressing crises in the region, which is experiencing ongoing escalations. Donald Trump continues to announce his picks for Middle East envoys, with the latest being Eric Traeger and Morgan Ortagus. Traeger, a seasoned Republican staffer, is set to lead the Middle East and North Africa division on the U.S. National Security Council. Meanwhile, Ortagus, once a vocal Trump critic, joins the team as a reluctant yet crucial addition. With these appointments, Trump's team is taking shape for the next phase of his administration. The Gaza ceasefire deal, announced earlier, was hammered out in the final days of Biden's term. After months of on-again, off-again negotiations, it was based on proposals he put forward in mid-2024. The last-minute diplomatic breakthrough was also driven by Trump's warning that there would be hell to pay if the detainees were not released by time of his inauguration. Trump dispatched this incoming Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, to collaborate with Biden's chief negotiator, Brett McCurg, in an unprecedented partnership between the two camps. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was one of the first global leaders to congratulate Trump on his victory, calling it history's greatest comeback. The message served as a strong political signal that Israel intends to sharpen its foreign policy in the Middle East with Trump back in power. It is no secret that Israel has long been rooting for a Trump victory, as it likely means smoother ties between the United States and Israel. Israel has been one of the largest recipients of U.S. military aid, receiving advanced weapon systems that bolster its defense in ongoing conflicts, despite the lack of a formal military pact. The U.S.-Iranian relationship has been marked by decades of tension. The relationship shifted toward a more positive path with the 2015 JCPOA nuclear deal, but the progress crumbled when President Trump withdrew from the agreement in 2018, reinstating sanctions. Fears of direct confrontations picked following an April 13 attack on Israeli territory. Based on his first term, the Trump administration is expected to focus on preventing Tehran from acquiring nuclear weapons and tightening sanctions. After the end of Bashar al-Assad's rule, the Biden administration has sought to engage with the new leadership in Damascus. Trump's team will need to thread the complex needle in Syria. Ahmed Shara, the military operations chief who came to power in Damascus on December 8, likely viewed the former Trump administration's team, including James Jeffrey, special representative for Syria engagement, as a positive force. Under Trump, he will likely want to engage more with Washington. Lebanon's new president, Joseph Aoun, a former military commander, is hoping to secure increased support from Washington. As Trump prioritizes and makes peace a priority in the region, Donald Trump may face new challenges in securing a permanent ceasefire deal in Lebanon after the 60-day initial ceasefire expires, especially as Israel continues to violate its terms. Undoubtedly, Donald Trump's return to the White House will bring fundamental changes to America's policy in both international and regional levels. Unlike his first term, Trump appears more mature and prepared this time, recognizing that this may be his last chance to leave a lasting mark on the Middle East.
Thank you, Rana. And now for more analysis, we are joined from Washington by Mr. Ahmed Maharim, writer and political analyst, and from New York by Mr. PLD Silva, the political science professor. Welcome both of you, and I will start with Mr. Maharim. Now, sir, as Trump returns to the White House, what are some of the key priorities for his administration in the Middle East region?
Well, I think as he promised usually, his nice and famous word, we will come back to make America great again, politically and economically. His priority in the Middle East is to make some kind of stability. I think before entering the White House, his envoy to the Middle East, to Israel, succeed to achieve a very important goal, that there is a ceasefire have taken place, and that there is a change of president and the detains on the both sides, Hamas and that upcoming president in 24 hours, he succeeds something very successful, very tangible. His priority to the Middle East is to make a kind of compromise in the region. Israel has to recognize that to end Hamas or to make the Palestinian to leave the land is a kind of dream, is not easy to be practical, to be achieved. Then I think there is some kind of compromise from his administration to explain to the Israeli leaders that the future will come in a very different way. And they have to listen to the wisdom, and they have to recognize that the people of Gaza has to continue doing what they are doing. Mm-hmm. I think in the future will have a very good impact from Trump's administration to succeed or to achieve a very successful kind of image on the Middle East area, starting with Gaza and Israel.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Silva, Trump has already begun appointing his Middle East envoys, including figures like Eric Traeger and Morgan Ortagus. What influence do these appointments have on his approach to the Middle East diplomacy in the second term?
Right. So I think the most important person is Steve Witkoff, because Witkoff basically bulldozed Netanyahu into accepting a ceasefire for hostages deal, which Netanyahu made wide-ranging concessions. Okay, and mm-hmm. This was really a surprise. Mm-hmm. The concessions that Netanyahu gave the Palestinians is control of the Philadelphia route, mm-hmm. Netzareh corridor, and the ability to genuinely monitor the return of Palestinian civilians, over 1 million Palestinian civilians, to northern Gaza. and allowing 600 trucks of humanitarian aid per day, which is 100 trucks more than before October 7th. So all these things are very, very important. And Netanyahu basically is on a weak front vis-a-vis President Trump. As Prince Turki bin Faisal from Saudi intelligence said over 1 month ago at Princeton in a keynote, that Trump is more popular with Netanyahu's far-right supporters, and therefore he is able to pressure and bend Netanyahu to his will. The other person who's very important is Elbridge Colby, who is the Undersecretary of Defense for Defense Policy. His grandfather was William Colby, the director of the CIA. Now, Elbridge Colby has said that the Middle East is of less significance for the US, and they do want to focus more on other emerging strategic competitions, especially on the military front with China. So these are the two people I think you need to be looking at closely. Steve Witkoff, who's, as you in your report said, is going to be visiting Gaza, and the other person is Elbridge Colby.
Mr. Maharim, the Gaza ceasefire deal, which was finalized under President Biden's administration and came into effect yesterday, reportedly involved some of Trump's proposals. How might Trump's policy towards Gaza change following this deal?
Well, I think the most important is that there is 3 steps: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And the details are really very vast kind of details. I think both sides, Israeli and Hamas side, will be keen interest and careful to go slowly but surely to achieve the whole goal. The main question, which is irritating everybody in the region, that at the end of these 3 steps is any kind of finalizing the war. There is no more. The war will stop. Assuming that will happen, and we hope that if the war will stop, the main question will start after that. The first day after the war stop, who will be taking care of the stability of Gaza? Israel rejecting that Hamas can be on the ground, which is not physical. I think it seems like maybe Hamas with the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, both they have to be in charge of the region. Some ideas that some Arab countries, some allies from the international world, some UN. I think the next step, which is the more critical one, what will happen about those 2 millions they were deporting from their homes and they came back. I can say that with some kind of hope they will be back home, but the demolish and the destruction of the area, it needs a lot of rebuilding all the facilities, hospitals, the schools, water, sewerage, all these kind of things. I think some kind of international community has to help Gaza immediate in order to make their life easy again.
And of course, that could take years. But Mr. Silva, back to Trump, the fact that Trump's withdrawal from Iran nuclear deal was one of the most controversial actions of his first term. Trump is known for his controversial actions. How might his second term differ in terms of U.S.-Iran relations? And do you expect any shifts in the current approach to the nuclear non-proliferation treaty?
Right. So there's one step before that. Elbridge Colby has said and has written that it is not in the U.S. interests to attack Iranian nuclear facilities. So that's one thing that's going to happen. Netanyahu has been for a long time trying to push the U.S. into a war with Iran.
Yes,
I don't think that is going to happen under Trump's watch. What will happen is Trump, in his second term, is going to look to make a change, a sea change in the region. And I don't think going to war is his method. And I know for a fact, given the character of President Trump and the fact that he wants to bolster his reputation, he would be looking to have to be awarded a Nobel Peace Prize. It doesn't mean that stopping the war in Ukraine, in Gaza, and not going to war with the Iranians is, I think, a very important point. What he would do with the JCPOA, we are not sure.
Mr. Muharrem, back again to you, given the complex situation in Syria now, following the ousting of Bashar al-Assad, what direction might Trump take regarding the relations with Syria's new administration in his second term?
I think the president of American in Syria is something very important. The good relation, I think, and the upcoming relation with the other region like Turkey, the Gulf states, the Middle East allies to the America, I think will keep Trump to keep his eye in some kind of assistance has to be given to the Syrian new administration. And I think one of the good signs that there is some kind of hope. Trump administration will go with different deals to make a better future, a better life for the Syrian people. Of course, there is so many volume of money are freezing or frozen already in different
and there
banks.
are the sanctions as well. The sanctions on Syria. Let's not forget that.
Most important is the sanction from American banks, from American administration. I think it will be released some kind of hope that America is currently hoping that the stability will happen in this area. It will help to the stability also in the future in the Middle East.
Now, Mr. Silva, with the election of Lebanon's new president, Joseph Aoun, how might Trump's administration approach its relation with Lebanon, particularly regarding the Israeli aggression on Lebanon that stopped following the ceasefire deal last November?
The big difference between Trump and Biden is that Trump is not genocidal. That's what we see now. The Biden administration certainly was genocidal. They gave the Israelis a free hand, whether it was in Gaza, whether it was West Bank, Jerusalem, Lebanon, Syria. Trump is not going to do that because, given his character, he likes winners. He doesn't like losers. And in his opinion, Netanyahu is a loser. It has cost the U.S. taxpayers trillions of dollars supporting these endless wars. And I don't think that's going to be the case going forward under a Trump administration, which is to the dismay of the aggressive expansionist Israeli defense hawks and the far-right supporters of Netanyahu and Netanyahu himself. Because Trump wants quid pro quo. Americans are not getting anything back from any of these wars, these endless wars, and especially in the Middle East, supporting the Israelis. So Trump will want quid pro quo, and if he does not get it, I think Netanyahu is in for a big surprise.
So Trump wants to win the majority of Americans, especially with regards to the dissatisfaction among the American people, because they said, we as taxpayers, what did you do with all this money? How did it all end up in killing innocent civilians? So I guess Trump here would try to remove this bad image by improving things and trying to establish his image, as you said, as a man of peace, as you said, sir.
Correct.
Mr. Muharrem, back again to you. After the ceasefire in Gaza took place, how do you think Trump will approach the issue of the governing post-war Gaza? This is a very critical issue.
As your guest, I like what he said. Trump, the difference between him and Biden, Trump is like always to be a winner. By the time the other one, Biden, he used to be a loser. Trump would like to be a winner. One of his considerations is to do something fruitful, tangible, very soon, very quick, to make the people of Gaza and also the people of Israel that peaceful can be achieved. He has, I think, in his mind with his cabinet, different ideas about the future of Gaza, how the rebuild of Gaza, how the involvement of Gulf states to share a Middle East negotiations, and the new big projects will impact to facilitate a lot of problems and to find out millions of jobs to the people they are suffering in the region. So the mentality of Trump, I think, it will come in a time that all the parties in the area, they suffered a lot from the war, and it will be in a proper time that I think his ideas can be welcome and can be achievable very soon.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was Mr. Ahmed Maharim, writer and political analyst. Thank you very much. And also from New York, Mr. PLD Silva, political science professor. Thank you very much. Thank you both for your analysis. And that brings us to the end of this segment. We are still continuing our coverage, so stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.